I'm Chris Hogg, and we are live at Innovation Week in Calgary, and I'm joined by Tina Mathas, the co-founder of Flow Factory. Tina, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
I want to start with a conversation around corporate innovation. A lot of the discussion this week has focused on startups, some on scale-ups, some on the corporate world, and some of the language that gets thrown around how innovation happens includes things like core innovation, adjacent innovation, or transformative innovation. What are those? Can you sort of break down what those things mean?
Sure, absolutely. So core innovation is really what's close to what you do on a daily basis. So that could be innovating around processes, innovating around your current set of products. Adjacent would be taking a product you currently have or a service that you currently have and finding additional value. And then transformative is when you're breaking into and creating new markets. So this is your crazy people that you want to keep away from everybody else.
So who should run each one? It's not the same person that should run each kind of project?
I think that definitely there should be ownership of each project. So you want to be able to make sure that you have somebody that owns it. But I think transformative is something completely different and should sit outside of the bigger organization, because you don't, I refer to them as your pirates. You don't want them to be tainted by the day-to-day, and they're usually a different type of thinker. So you
What
want
makes them different? What's a pirate?
I guess it's in the word. They're the sort of think outside the box, anarchical in nature, want to don't go with the status quo, want to break things, want to build new frontiers. Usually they're the ones that don't conform to the corporate world very much, and so we call them misfits. They're just the crazy ones, as Apple used to refer to them as. But yeah, that's who they are.
A company, there's all kinds of companies at the beginning of transformation, and many who've been through varying degrees of it.
Yeah.
Do companies, in your experience, do they know where they are? Like, do they jump right to transformative? Is there a specific staging or workflow you should follow when you're thinking about transformation?
I think of transformation, and I liken it to the caterpillar and the butterfly, right? I think we're in constant transformation. So we're constantly changing, we're constantly transforming, and it's the degree to which that you're transforming. So when you look at the three areas of innovation, and you look at the transformative, or what we call disruptive innovation, it's that part of the caterpillar that's in the chrysalis that's fighting to get out, and if you let them out too soon, they die. You need that kind of an individual that's wanting to fight to get out of the chrysalis, and that's what makes that kind of group of people the crazy ones. But organizations in general never stop transforming. That's why I find the word like digital transformation almost like an oxymoron, because it's continuous, right? We're human beings. We're constantly transforming and evolving, right? So
What about risk aversion? There are many Canadian companies that are accused of just being way too risk averse, or maybe not companies, but individuals. How do you overcome that?
So I work with companies south of the border as well, and that is true. We are, as Canadians, a bit more risk averse. I think how you overcome it is you show early wins early, so you fail early. Don't try and boil the ocean. Start with something small, understand what the hypothesis that you're testing, but start, go quickly. I always say if you can constrain the timeline, if you can constrain it to, let's say, a week or 2 weeks, and put it in front of the customer that you're wanting to buy super fast, because what ends up happening is you manage risk along the way. And if you can do that with multiple ideas, and you can get them into market to test them within 2 weeks, or even less than that, then you're building basically the benchmark for which ideas are going to work and which ones are not. And that's how you manage the risk.
So when you've worked with organizations that have a bit of risk aversion, or a person that's not sure when the right time to start is, how do you know, now's when we do it, now's when we try, now's when we stop?
There's never that's a good question. Depends on the person who is leading it, right? But I don't think there's ever a right time to start. It's kind of like having a baby. There's never a right time to plan for having children. It's just, you have to be ready for it, though. And I think that's the thing. And, my friends at Unbounded Thinking talk about measuring innovation culture. And you have to be able to measure, so you have to start somewhere. But I would say that it starts with coming up with a use case or an idea, right? And then understanding when to say it's going to fail or it's not going to fail. And I find that in most organizations, they don't determine that factor first. I'll give you an example. We built an entire platform at a previous financial institution that I was at, even though we knew that it didn't meet our original go, no-go criteria. So we knew that if it didn't pass a certain percentage in the first time that we prototyped it to the market, they wouldn't have enough of validation to carry on. But it was within a bracket of time that we thought, oh, maybe if we just tried a little bit more, it'll work. So because we didn't listen to our initial instinct of it doesn't meet this particular criteria to move on to the next phase, we'll end up wasting a crap ton of money. So I think you have to early on identify what it is that you want to put to market, find that sponsor, educate your board, and then keep it small, keep it tight, and fail. I can't say this often enough, but fail early. And there's never a good time or
Really fail fast.
fail fast. I find what ends up happening is if you wait for a good time, there's always going to be external factors, economic factors that are going to make it seem that innovation is a luxury. And so I would say that don't wait for the perfect time. Just start small, and then continue to fail as quickly and early as possible.
So if you've seen organizations spend a lot of money and it didn't work, you've also talked a little bit about here at Innovation Week in Calgary, examples where you've taken small budgets relative to the size of a project and you worked as an outside team. I think that was also in financial services or with a bank.
Yeah.
What made that, what was the approach with that, and why did that work?
It worked because you don't want to mix build and run resources. You want the run resources to be focusing on running the organization and protecting the organization, whether that's in oil and gas or that's in banking. And they're going to be innovating in the run space. But in the build space, you want to be able to be agile and nimble and get to market quickly, and you can't do that with a large machine. So it definitely works to work with smaller, more nimble startups that are incented to help you because they also want the experience and the exposure, and they're able to get to market and get to test much quicker than your organization can. And then what you'll end up doing is you don't burden your existing resources. You're able to test and see where this is going to go. And when you have something that really can scale, you start to introduce key people from your organization into that process so that they can start advising on how you're going to scale. Because what you build on to test isn't necessarily what you're going to build on to scale. So that's why I think it's important that you create this little ecosystem with the startup world and with universities to help you test and get things to market quickly.
If we go back to the risk aversion point for a moment, there's also sometimes risk aversion at the corporate level with a large enterprise working with a startup because they're brand new or they're just trying something, or what if they're not here next year when we need them? Is that the right way of thinking, or how do we move past that?
I think, no, I don't think it's the right way of thinking. And I think I think it's just get over it, because you have more of risk using people internally in your organization than you do externally. And you can manage that risk. And what I mean by managing that risk is managing your exposure. What most large organizations are concerned with is their reputational risk. So you manage that reputational risk by prototyping this with a select small group, a control group, that if there is any fallout or damage, you can control that damage. And so I think, to me, that's the way you do it. This is the way we did it. We told several CEOs multiple times that they could potentially go to jail, and what the risk was around that and how we would manage it. But the reward, the value that it was going to generate, definitely overrode the risk. And because we were going to use a small control group, you were able to really manage that exposure.
So my last question in the last minute or so we have here, and I realize there's not one answer, but it's the one thing that everyone wants to know, ROI. How do you approach measuring the return on investment of a transformation project like the ones you've described?
The value it generates, right? And if you're not generating value from the day you start, from that very small project, You have to be generating value all along the way. So whether it's product solution fit or product market fit or scale, your value is starting to generate a product solution fit. What is that the value, the outcome that you're generating along the way? You can't say that I'm going to generate $10 million in 5 years and then expect to wait until then to have that value realized. The way we look at it is we do the thinking up front. We say, okay, what can something look like at scale? What would that value be? What are the dollars? What are the let's say the number of customers you want to have at that scale level? Okay, tenfold back. What do we have to prove at product market fit? And then tenfold back of that, what do we have to prove at product solution fit? And that way, you're measuring and mitigating risk along the way as well. So if you said 10,000, at scale, then it's 100 at minimal viable product, and it's 10 at problem solution fit. So if you can get 10 people to say that the idea you have is worthwhile, then you can move on to the next phase. And then if you can get 100 people to say that the idea you have is worthwhile, then you can invest in the next. And so to me, that's how you measure and that's how you mitigate risk.
Where can people go if they want to learn more about you and your work?
Flowfactory.ai.
Tina, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
For more information on what's happening, Tina's work, corporate innovation, and other interviews, check out digitaljournal.com.